Hello everyone, thanks for joining us in this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe television, live from our headquarters in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. I am Bable Jonathan. In our top stories on this edition of the news, United States senators press for a suspension of U.S. military assistance to Cameroon over violence allegedly perpetrated by military officers in the two Anglophone regions of the Republic of Cameroon. We'll be bringing to you details on this in this newscast, and we'll also talk about President Paul Biya's problematic stay in Geneva, Switzerland. His presence in Geneva has continued provoking angry reactions from some Cameroonians who are in the diaspora, and they are protesting against his stay, complaining that it is unlawful and useless exploitation and of course use of the country's resources out of Cameroon. One police officer and 8 others have been injured in a suicide bomb attack in the Tunisian capital, Tunis. Those were our top stories. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us on this edition of the news. U.S. senators have requested the suspension of United States military assistance to Cameroon over alleged violence perpetrated by Cameroonian military officers in the crisis-hit northwest and southwest regions of the Republic of Cameroon. And the request was made to the fiscal year 2020 National Defense Authorization. And of course, we have in details in this report compiled by me, Armstrong Sander.
The amendments to the United States 2020 National Defense Authorization Act, requesting a halt to further U.S. security assistance to Cameroon, was introduced by 5 top U.S. senators, led by senior U.S. Senator Dick Durbin. With the exception of the fight against Boko Haram, the senators say U.S. military assistance in Cameroon must be halted until the U.S. Secretaries of State and Defense certify that military and security forces in Cameroon have demonstrated progress in abiding by international human rights standards, especially in the war in the northwest and southwest regions. Senator Durbin says America's strength is in its values, and the U.S. cannot remain complicit in actions that are used to commit gross violations of internationally recognized rights. Acknowledging that Cameroon is an important partner in the fight against Boko Haram, the U.S. legislators maintained that the requested amendments do not interfere the fight against Boko Haram, but the U.S. must make it clear that violence against the people of Cameroon is unacceptable. They called on the governments of Cameroon to make substantial changes that benefit the safety and well-being of the people of the northwest and southwest regions, where they highlighted that schools have stopped, health systems broken, and civilians, including displaced people, killed. The 5 U.S. lawmakers each recounted sad stories they have heard about the suffering of the people of the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon. In December 2018, some of these senators joined a group of Democratic U.S. senators in a letter to call on the attention of the U.S. government to what they qualified as increasing violence in Cameroon.
And the deepening Anglophone crisis, coupled with the unstable socio-political climate in the Republic of Cameroon, are among the points notably highlighted by some Cameroonians who are angry over President Paul Biya's stay at the Intercontinental Hotel in Geneva, Switzerland, and when protesting against the stay of President Paul Biya, and they got into a violent clash with some of his close collaborators, including members of his security team. And of course, this has been going on for some time now. We recall in 2018, the same group known as Brigade Anti-Sardina or Anti-Sardina Brigade have been protesting, or were protesting, in the same hotel against President Paul Biya's stay in Switzerland. They are calling on him to go back home and solve the problems plaguing his country, notably the security and socio-political challenges in the northwest, southwest, as well as in the far north with the Boko Haram insurgency, and of course the issue of kidnappers on the rise in the Adamawa region, and security challenges provoked by Central African Seleka rebels who are making sporadic incursions in the east of the country. And of course the Cameroonians in the diaspora went protesting, and they have announced a massive protest on the Saturday. Protest condemned by Cameroon's ambassador to Switzerland, who qualified the move against the President of the Republic, Paul Biya, as barbaric. And of course the protest has equally been condemned by other political leaders. We're going to be analyzing these and other issues in the second part of today's edition of the 6 p.m. news. Now to the OPEC city of Limbe in the southwest region of the country. Our correspondent David Sunmaimo reports that 5 young men suspected to have killed an individual in that part of the southwest region have been arrested by gendarme officers. He files in details from Limbe.
This footage, released by the Gendarmerie Brigade Commander of Limbe 2 Subdivision, shows the village community of Ngeme burying on site the already decomposed remains of Bikele J. Baye Desiree, 3 days after he was dragged and killed in a nearby bush by a group of 5 young men in their early 20s.
Found a corpse in our new layout here in Ngeme village. That's why you see we are here with the Limbe 2 Council to see how far we can really bury this corpse.
In a replay of what happened as the 5 hoodlums were taken on the site to demonstrate to the population how it actually occurred, the 5 young men, Nana Bertrand, aged 24, Echambi Joel, 25, Olan Ajengong, 24, Ngwa Smith Miki, 24, and Alengin, 22, confessed not only to the forces of law and order, but to the entire population of Limbe 2 subdivision, to the satisfaction of the population who have been constantly suffering from the hands of these notorious young men. According to Adjutant Chef Asomo Nancis Ludovic, Brigade Commander of Limbe 2 subdivision, these young men are all from Limbe 2 subdivision.
All of them, they are young people of our area. 2 of them, they are from Batoke. 2 of them, they are from, other 3, they are from Ngeme. Those young people, today they accept that they are, all of us we see as they describe the scene and so on.
One of the hoodlums said he told the others not to kill Bikele J. Baye Desiree.
He tell me say no, he no feel leave that man. The man to say he no feel leave that man. I ask the man say you want stand for the kind of thing you want key man. He no talk, the man no talking from inside. I tell the man say you na me I don't take you car for here. That's why you can't stand for the kind of thing. He wants stand me I no do me the man the wrong go me I no do me the man.
The 5 young men had a failed operation on April the 12th in Ngeme village, suspected that Bikele J. Baye Desiree, who was sitting at the top floor of an uncompleted story building directly opposite the residence they attacked and was browsing the internet benefiting free Wi-Fi, had seen them. They caught and dragged him to a nearby bush behind the story building before committing their evil act. They are to be transported to Boya prison while awaiting their sentence.
Davidson Maimo reporting there. And for several months, the Nyala Rai Chateau Yassa stretch of road in the 3rd subdivision of Cameroon's economic capital, Douala, has been a nightmare to commuters due to its advanced state of dilapidation. Rehabilitation works have started on that road, as announced by the government delegate to the Douala City Council, Dr. Fritz Ntone, and our reporter Hermin Iluga was there. She reports that the rehabilitation works have effectively started, but timid.
Works have eventually kicked off on the Ndokoti-Nyalayasa stretch of road. For the past months, the population has been facing tough times, and today they seem to inhale a sign of relief. The road user says he is grateful for the job which has started, while hoping that the road becomes accessible once work is done. The bike rider says they have increased the price of transportation due to the roads. It takes 800 francs to go to Ndokoti, and the transport doubles when it rains. This young man on his part says he appreciates the work which has commenced, though with very few difficulties recorded at the level of works. As for him, it's more and more a nightmare to have fluid mobility on this stretch of road.
Aujourd'hui, vraiment, nous remercions le geste pour les travaux entrepris.
Meanwhile, the majority of business operators deserted the lane and others completely closed their shops due to bad roads. Very few stayed back. For instance, this bike repairer who says business is more and more difficult. This business operator says things have become very difficult. No clients come. Meanwhile, he has a family to care for. He says there are even days he closes his shop due to bad market. He anyway hopes activities resume properly when work is complete. It's visible work has to be done properly on the road. As it's now, the drainage have been cleaned so as to ease the stagnant water to flow. And with the rains, the canalization seems to be the last resort, even at the detriment of the railway. At the time we left the construction site, the Chief Controller, Regional Delegate of Housing and Urban Development for the Littoral region, were yet coincidentally to visit the site.
And before we continue to something else, I should indicate right away that as far as the Anglophone crisis is concerned, Switzerland is getting into the process of solving the socio-political and security tensions in the northwest and southwest regions of the country, despite the problematic stay, so to speak, of the President of the Republic of Cameroon, Paul Biya, in the country, in the Geneva. And of course, we have information that the country is getting into the negotiations, into the mediation, into efforts to find lasting solutions to the crisis in the northwest and southwest regions of the Republic of Cameroon. On to something else now. The government of the Republic of Cameroon is now stepping up efforts in the fight against malaria. Speaking to the press today in the nation's political capital, Yaoundé, the Public Health Minister Manauda Malachi said that government is striving to significantly reduce the rate of malaria-related infant death in the country. Greater details in this extract of the Minister of Public Health, Manauda Malachi.
This year, 2019, we target about 1,706,783 children aged between 3 and 59 months. That is 1,055,355 in the Far North region and 651,428 in the North region. Allow me to specify that it is when the 3 doses of the monthly treatment are effectively taken and the administration dates of the drugs respect that the successful protection of the children against malaria is ensured. I therefore call on nannies and mothers to respect the dose, as well as health patients and distributors understand the community health workers to properly carry out communication and supervision so that no child is forgotten. I would equally like to express the partners and especially the government of the United States through the President's Malaria Initiative my gratitude for the technical and financial support they continue to give us so we can carry out this very important activity. Dear ladies and gentlemen, media. This prevention approach, which is the SMC, requires the focus of your professionalism. Together, let us disseminate good information to the communities. I know you are capable of meeting this expectation. To this effect, we appreciate what you do every day for the success of malaria control activities in Cameroon. The SMC, which concerns us, is a challenge that we have to face with enthusiasm. Together, we can reverse malaria prevention and initiate the elimination process in the north and the far north region, where it is eligible.
Cameroon's Public Health Minister Manauda Malachi speaking to reporters in the nation's political capital Yaoundé. Out of Cameroon, a police officer has been killed and at least 8 others injured in a suicide bomb attack near the French embassy in the Tunisian capital Tunis. The bomber targeted a police van. Courtesy Equinoxe.
Heavily armed police seal off the locations of the attacks, one of which was about 200 meters away from the French embassy. The bombers struck at the peak of tourist season and months before an election. The first targeted a police patrol on Charles de Gaulle Street in central Tunis. Shortly afterwards, a second suicide bomber blew himself up near a police station in Al-Karjani district. Tunisia has been battling militant groups operating in remote areas near the border with Algeria since 2011. Security has improved since a state of emergency was imposed in 2015, following attacks at a museum in Tunis and a beach in Sousse, which Islamic State claimed responsibility for. The attackers here have not yet been identified, but authorities have called for the public to show strength and not to panic. Katie Dartford, Euronews.
Coming up, the smart side of the AFCON. We are receiving sportsman Smart Njikangebre. You're welcome.
Good evening, Babila.
And we're going to start right away to talk about the Indomitable Lions of Cameroon.
Yes, the Indomitable Lions of Cameroon, as you rightly put it, they are preparing for their crunch encounter against the Black Stars of Ghana. That will be coming this weekend. And earlier on this morning, we were in the Lions Den out there at the Mercury Hotel, that is in Ismailia in Egypt, where we met the Lions. It was a very jovial atmosphere that we met this morning out there in the Lions Den. And just to note, all of the players were in their very good mood after their wonderful victory that they had against their opponent of the day, that was Guinea-Bissau. So the players were very, very happy. It was an atmosphere of camaraderie, that we met within the Lions Den as they went for their breakfast this morning. And just to note that the Lions had an individual training session earlier on, and they had a video they had to analyze. They had a video, they watched a video, and all of them they analyzed. That is their previous matches against Black Stars of Ghana. And of course, later on this evening, there will be a players meeting, meaning the players will meet themselves and try to discuss before their final training session for today. So that was just how the atmosphere was in the Lions Den out there at the Mercury Hotel this Thursday.
And now we're going to talk about the former Indomitable Lions, Samuel Eto'o and the Lions.
Yes, the former Indomitable Lions captain, and of course the top goal scorer, one of those that African has never seen, at least for now, in the decades, is Samuel Eto'o. He was in the camp of the Indomitable Lions earlier on, and of course, Seydou Bombonjo, I see him talking with Samuel Eto'o as he sits side by side with the head coach of the Indomitable Lions, Clarence Seedorf. It was an opportunity for the former Indomitable Lions captain and player to actually encourage the other teammates, that is the players, current players of the Indomitable Lions who are playing, and tell telling them that what they did in the game against Guinea-Bissau was just one, and of course encouraging them to continue against Ghana. Remember, Samuel Eto'o has also met with the Ghanaian side, so he was there to encourage the young players who are in the camp. And just to note, earlier on, a few minutes ago, the match of the day pitting Senegal against Algeria already started, and we decided to get into the that is the Teranga Lions, to see one of the key players that we are expecting to produce fireworks this evening, who is none other than Sadio Mane. It should be noted that Sadio Mane will be making his 57th appearance with the Teranga Lions this evening. The match has already started, and 56 appearance with a total number of 15 goals already scored and 13 assists. So many are asking if he's going to increase his goal tally this evening against the Desert Foxes of Algeria, and of course maybe his assist with the Teranga Lions of Senegal. Sadio Mane, should be remembered, is the star for the Teranga Lions of Senegal.
From the Indomitable Lions through the Teranga Lions, now to the Harambee Stars.
Harambee Stars, they are the national team of Kenya. They are going to have the last game later on today. Babila, we decided to talk about them because they will be playing against Tanzania. They call themselves the Taifa Stars of Tanzania. But it should be noted that this is going to be the first ever East African debut in an African Nations Cup. It has never been before. We come back with those to the record because people need to understand. And it should be noted that this far, a team like Kenya are returning to the African Nations Cup. That was 15 years that they stayed in the cold. And this far, they are the only team that has recorded no shot since the competition started, because they could not even shoot once when they played against Algeria in their first encounter. So Kenya will be hoping to meet with their rivals of the same East African zone. It should be noted that the last time Kenya played against Tanzania was in December 2017, and Kenya defeated Tanzania by 1-0. Talking about the Taifa Stars now, who are going to be the opponents of the Harambee Stars, that is, or maybe before we talk about the Taifa Stars, let's talk about the record of Kenya in an African Nations Cup competition. The record of Kenya in African Nations Cup competition. It should be noted that Kenya have this far played a total number of 8 games in the African Cup of Nations, and of course they have lost in their last 7 matches that are played in this competition. So we are expecting to see what they will do later on this evening against the Taifa Stars. They have conceded 16 goals, and of course to tell you that Kenya needs more work to be done. Taifa Stars are going to be the opponents of Kenya, the Harambee Stars, later on in the evening. They are from Tanzania. As I told you, it is the first ever East African debut in the African Cup of Nations, and Taifa Stars, remember, all of them, they lost on match day 1 to their opponents, Senegal and Algeria respectively. So they are hoping that today they are going to get something more important, interesting from their match against the Kenyans, who are from East Africa.
And host country Egypt, the pharaohs of Egypt, seem to be making their way with little or no difficulties or hitches touch the cup.
Yes, and as you rightly put it, it should be noted that Egypt and Nigeria officially, they are the first 2 nations that have qualified, picked their qualification for the next stage of the competition. Egypt defeated the Democratic Republic of Congo, who are systematically disqualified because they have lost in their 2 matches this far in the ongoing African Cup of Nations. But they still have hopes if they beat their opponents in the last game. And to note that earlier on, we had Madagascar, the country of the CAF president Ahmad, who recorded a historic win in an African Cup of Nations. It is their first participation and the first time they defeated Burundi by 1-0.
Thanks, sportsman Smart Jikan Gabriel. And that was the smart side of the 2019 AFCON. Coming up next, Talking Point. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. We are receiving a political analyst, Ako John. Ako, you're welcome.
Yeah, the pleasure is mine.
And you watched, like all of us, like all other Cameroonians the videos of some compatriots who are angry over President Paul Biya's stay in Geneva. What do you think about such reactions, such moves, which has been qualified by some as barbaric, as an attack on the personality of the President of the Republic?
Yeah, I know in a country like ours, people will always have other reasoning and thinking that Cameroonians doesn't act properly. We have seen President Donald Trump attacked in Vietnam. We have seen the same attack in the United Kingdom. We have seen on the same day President Donald Trump was taken out of office in the United States. There were people equally protesting. It is illegal right. It is an international right. It is a United Nations right that individuals who are not comfortable with a particular system can take on the streets, can protest against a particular person, not feeling comfortable with him. I don't think it is an attack to the president. It is mainly an expression of grievances which these people have been holding. Remember the controversy surrounding the presidential elections in 2018. No Cameroonian was comfortable. A lot in the diaspora have been expecting the visit of the head of state. Several times these missions of the head of state to Geneva has been cancelled. And I believe it was an opportunity also, if we were in a democratic system, for the head of state to recognize that Cameroonians in the diaspora are not comfortable, and why not address their worries or even visit them or make a meeting to have an exchange with them. This is the extent to which democracy holds. And within my person, I will say, I will still insist that in a democratic system, there are bound to be conflict, there are bound to be grievances, but the way in which we handle them or the response we give to them is what matters. I don't think Cameroonians will think it's a confrontation between the president and his own citizens who are in the diaspora. It is an expression of a which they think the head of state is equally supposed to handle. But I have But
what many are condemning is the violent character of the move, the violent character of the move. Some members of the security team of the President of the Republic suffered some injuries. We saw the pictures, and some persons also.
Yeah, when they talk of violent, I have said most often than not, it is a civil protest. There were no arms, except they will tell us that guns were used or machetes were used. In an atmosphere attempt to quell down crisis, even back home in Cameroon, we have seen injuries. So I don't know why this one is going to be so extraordinary. We have even received deaths, hundreds of them, and we still have a lot of Cameroonians behind bars being held by the same system for protesting or marching or whatsoever, expressing their grievances with bare hands. So this one, again, happening within other considered as the first visit of the head of state out of the country after the presidential election in 2018. It has never happened. Our president was supposed to have been out twice or thrice more than this, but then the fear had been these same people in the diaspora, which gives us an idea also that the security that the head of state went with were equally expecting this type of move. And to me, the response which they might have given had not even indicated that they were waiting for these particular individuals. It is time for the head of state to address Cameroonians on the issues affecting this nation. After the presidential elections, we have what they call them the anti-Sardina, we have the Amazonian crisis, we have the political quell, we have the Boko Haram. We have not seen the leader, we call the president, to express his mind towards his people on these issues. We have always seen him on the same official ceremony, 31st of December, 20th May, which means like the atmosphere seems just to be ordinary. And this is not done. But again, there is an indication equally to give the idea to the international community that it is not all fine. If at home, Cameroonians are still quiet, it's because of the arms and the brutal nature which the same regime has been given to its people. But abroad, I believe these people feel that they have a comfortable seat to express their worries, considering that the two environments are not the same.
What do you think about the image of Cameroon and the impact of such movements?
Yeah, that is what I'm saying, that it is not an impact on Cameroon, but I believe very strongly, as I said, when people insult you, at times it is not because they hate you, but I believe very strongly it's because they see in you a defect which you need to adjust. It is giving the idea to the international community that there's a real problem and that this problem is above Cameroon as a government, with the leadership of the head of state unable to manage, and that there is a need for the international community to intervene. You just made mention that Switzerland is trying to offer its mediate, or can I call his good offices to handle the issue between Cameroon and other secessionist group within. And that equally, the U.S. Senate acting just soon that they want to cut down the military aid to Cameroon. All these are solutions get towards solving Cameroonian problem. The grievances expressed by Cameroonians abroad is just a presentation of what Cameroon is going through. And that right now in Cameroon, Cameroonians are not sitting because they could not come out, but there is one thing, the fear of the military. Because in Cameroon, we have a very brutal military, not capable of understanding that at times there are certain demands of the people who are called legitimate demands, and that these demands are not military object or military objectives, and that those demands are always supposed to be dialogue, they're supposed to be negotiated upon. And if at all, like the French people will tell you that after a very serious crisis, there's always the creation of a new republic. Why can't we accept that 40 years after in office, there is a need for a new makeup of the new Cameroon? Cameroonians are witching. In fact, those that were born in 1982, who are somewhere around 38 years today, are expecting that they need to find a new blood. They need to find new administrator. The same names they wrote in official exams are the same names their own children are presently writing in the same official exams. There is a need to a new makeup. And we think Cameroon will be better off if we can accept to sit together and create a new Republic of Cameroon.
Are you saying that the military response, the repression on protesters in Cameroon explains why the country's dirty lenience are now being washed on the international market?
Exactly. It is not only the talk of the military response, but somewhere they will tell you that there is what we call administrative requisition. We have seen several times those of the opposition, whenever they wish to express their mind, a DO will tell you, a governor will tell you that they are not supposed to do so. But when it is of the CBDM, they celebrated their 36 years in power, it was done all over the national territory. But when the other opposition party expressed the same wish, I'm telling you, it is that a country has been taken hostage by a few group of people which some within academic circles have been already identified. They are not above 70 Cameroonians that are holding this country and the future of the nation at stake. Just these few people, if taken off, Cameroon is a better nation. The country is blessed, and what kills us is mismanagement, bad governance, and this is what we are. We need to have a civilian response from the military, that once it's not a military target, the people are free to make their demands. And if the state is a state, I will insist that dialogue is an instrument of governance, and that nowhere in the world I have seen a state brutal as that of Cameroon. When people demand for dialogue, you give them arms. It is not done. We are demanding for dialogue, and only dialogue, a national dialogue, will do to create a new republic. I insist we need to do away with the old system, and everything shall become new.
Another unfriendly reaction towards a top state official came from the Indomitable Lions of Cameroon, who refused to receive the sports minister in Egypt.
Yeah, I will tell you that it is equally an expression, and it will always go that at every level, contributing to nation building at times becomes an individual interest, because if a group of people cannot respond, I mean, like we have seen in the Arab Spring, that the whole region was rejuvenated and we have new blood coming in. There is also a need in Cameroon now that those who cannot have the opportunity to express their feelings, I have seen in places like Nigeria, where a Nobel Peace Prize, in fact an award given by the state, was refused by Wole Soyinka, to tell them that until the mess in that country is maintained or arrange security issues, Boko Haram and the girls can be brought back home, he is not worth taking a medal from the head of state. So everybody has the right to give a response on how he thinks the problem in Cameroon can be resolved individually, collectively, or even you are a foreigner in the diaspora. People will always consider us associate to Cameroon. Friends of Cameroon need to act, and we have said the time is now. 3 years is too long a period. More than 2,000 Cameroonians have lost their life. This was not the case in 2015. It was not the case some 5 years back. What is happening when the regime refuses to talk to its people and decided to think that putting order by force or military is the lone way? I don't know to which extent it will, but I have never seen any regime that succeeded through arms and that they will always end up to dialogue. And dialogue should always be the permanent instrument in governance if Cameroon need to make a positive move.
What can we read within the lines in the call or demands by U.S. senators for a suspension of military aid to Cameroon with regards to atrocities allegedly committed by the military in the two regions, though atrocities rejected by the government anyway?
The government in Cameroon, it is not new that the government of Cameroon have been rejecting whenever, even at the presence of a surveying system or technology today. Incidents are brought towards the Cameroon government. You remember where a woman was shot dead with his kids in the northern part of the territory. It was equally refuted as lies. But now it is part of pressure. I will tell you, the United States some time ago equally took off about 100 of his servicemen from the northern part of the territory. And I will tell you that we are just receiving the consequences. That presently in the north, in less than a month, we have lost more than 100 souls, which was not the case when they say military. It is still part of what we call the international pressure, and that each of them and every Cameroonian, I said at every level, even the international actors, those who are giving aids to Cameroon, financially or militarily, has a possibility of bringing Cameroon to dialogue and to handle issues, of which these Cameroonian problems also poses problem to the international community.
Ako Jonako, a political analyst and a lecturer of law. Thanks for coming.
The pleasure is mine.
Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. That's it for today.